The candlelight flickers against the rough stone walls as Thrain Stonehelm leans closer to the parchment, his fingertips brushing away centuries of dust. Here, in the forgotten depths of Khazad-dûm's archives, lies a secret that could unravel everything the dwarves believe about their own past. The faded ink on the map whispers of Gabilgathol, not just a fallen kingdom, but a legacy deliberately erased. Yet the High Council's warning echoes in his mind, like the distant rumble of collapsing mines. Some truths are buried for a reason. What do you do when the weight of history threatens to crush the very foundations of your people's identity? Tonight, we follow Thrain into the shadows where few dwarves dare to tread, uncovering mysteries older than the roots of the mountains and far more dangerous. This isn't just a story of lost kingdoms. It's about who gets to decide what's remembered and what vanishes into the dark. Thrain's hands move with practiced precision, rolling the brittle scrolls in wax cloth before tucking them deep into his satchel. The scent of old parchment mingles with the sharp tang of dwarven steel as he checks his dagger's edge one last time. His fingers brush against the forged permit, a fragile shield against the watchful eyes of the High Council's enforcers. The quiet of his chamber is suffocating, every breath heavy with the silence of unspoken rebellion. Then his gaze lands on the portrait. The gilded frame catches the dim glow of the hearth, illuminating his father's stern face. Durin's beard streaked with silver, eyes alight with the same restless fire that now burns in Thrain's own chest. The explorer who never returned, the ghost whose footsteps he's retracing. A knot forms in his throat, half grief, half resolve. To turn back now would betray more than just his own curiosity. It would mean surrendering to the same shadows that swallowed his father whole. The first step into the tunnel is colder than he expects. Moonlight filters through cracks in the ancient stone, painting jagged silver lines across the floor like veins of mithril. Each echo of his boots feels too loud, a drumbeat announcing his defiance. Behind him, the warm glow of Erebber's hearths fades, replaced by the whispering dark of paths no dwarf has walked in an age. Somewhere ahead, buried beneath layers of time and secrecy, Gabilgathol waits, and with it, answers, or ruin. The torchlight wavers as Thrain presses forward, his breath forming faint clouds in the cool subterranean air. 3 days of winding tunnels, tight crevices, and the ever-present weight of stone above him have left his muscles sore, but his spirit undaunted. Then, as he rounds a jagged bend in the path, the flickering glow catches something unexpected, a vast mosaic stretching across the cavern wall. The colors, though faded, still shimmer with the brilliance of ancient craftsmen. Here, frozen in time, are warriors of Gabilgathol, locked in battle against dark, twisted figures, ones with no faces, only hollow eyes and grasping hands. The artistry is unmistakable. No other dwarven kingdom captured motion so fluidly, with every hammer swing and shield tilt alive in the stone. His pulse quickens. This is proof. His father's notes were right. Gabilgathol wasn't just lost, it was at war. But a new sound cuts through the silence. A slow, deliberate scrape against rock, like a blade being drawn or claws testing stone. Thrain freezes, his grip tightening on the torch. The echo bounces, impossible to place behind him. Above, his mind races. The High Council warned against this expedition, but they never mentioned anything alive still guarding these ruins. The air grows heavier, thick with the scent of damp earth and something older metallic, like rust or old blood. His free hand drifts to the axe at his belt. He could turn back now, return to the safety of torchlit halls and familiar faces, but the faces in the mosaic seem to watch him, their silent battle cry urging him forward. Whatever lies ahead, whether answers, danger, or both Gabilgathol's secrets, won't stay buried much longer. The torch's flicker dances across the rough cavern walls as Thrain crouches behind a jagged outcropping, his breath slow and measured. The scraping sound grows louder, now too rhythmic to be natural stone settling, too careful to be an echo. His fingers move silently over the loose boulder beside him, testing its weight as his other hand pulls a length of dwarven wire from his belt. The thin metal gleams faintly in the dim light, stronger than steel and sharper than a serpent's tooth when pulled taut. A shadow flickers at the edge of his vision, a hunched figure, gaunt and wiry, sniffing at the air with yellowed teeth bared. A Goblin Scout. Its beady eyes dart across the tunnel, scanning for movement, but it doesn't see the wire looped around the boulder, doesn't notice the carefully placed pebble beneath its foot. Thrain yanks the wire hard. The boulder crashes down with a thunderous crack, pinning the creature's leg beneath it. The goblin screeches, writhing like a trapped rat, but the dwarven wire is already around its throat, pulled just tight enough to silence without cutting. Speak softly, Thrain growls, pressing his boot against its chest. Who sent you? The goblin's lips peel back in a snarl, but fear flickers in its eyes. Master, it stammers, watches from the dark, wants the forge, the fire. Its clawed fingers twitch toward a rusted iron badge hanging from its neck, a sigil Thrain doesn't recognize, twisted and jagged like broken chains. The creature wheezes. Warband comes. They smell your blood, dwarf. They always find what the master seeks. Thrain's grip tightens. The High Council's warnings suddenly make terrible sense. Someone or something has been searching for Gabilgathol long before he ever set foot in these tunnels, and now they're hunting him. The goblin's breath rasps out in one last, ragged chuckle as Thrain makes his choice. Silence falls again, heavier than before. Ahead, the tunnel winds deeper into the mountain's belly. Behind him, the path back to Erebor lies open, safe. But safety won't answer the questions burning in his mind. Who is this master? Why does he covet a forge lost for ages? And if Thrain turns back now, what happens when the warband reaches Gabilgathol first? He wipes his hands on his cloak, smearing dirt and grit over his palms. The weight of his axe feels different now, no longer just a tool, but a promise. To press forward means walking into a trap. To retreat means leaving his father's legacy and his people's hidden history. To the shadows, somewhere in the dark, stone grinds against stone. The warband is closer than he thought. Thrain exhales slowly, then steps deeper into the black. Let them come. A Stonehelm doesn't run. The narrow passage shudders without warning. A deep groan echoes through the stone as the ceiling cracks apart above Thrain, raining fist-sized rocks down on him. He throws himself sideways just as the tunnel collapses in a deafening roar, dust choking the air. When the rumbling finally stops, he's sprawled in a shallow gorge he never saw coming, a jagged split in the mountain's flesh, hidden for who knows how long. His torch lies crushed beneath the rubble, but flickers of blue phosphorescence pulse from veins in the walls, casting the gorge in an eerie glow. That's when he sees it. Propped against the far wall, half buried in debris, is a figure clad in battered armor. Not a skeleton, not bones, stone, a dwarven warrior, petrified mid-swing, fingers locked around an axe. Thrain's breath catches. The crest on the axe's pommel is unmistakable, the twin hammers of House Stonehelm, worn but unbroken. Time slows as he reaches out, brushing centuries of grit from the sentinel's face. The features are weathered, but the set of the jaw, the curve of the brow, he'd know them anywhere. His father didn't vanish. He stood his ground right here, turning to stone before he could fall. A fate reserved only for dwarves who die defending something sacred. Grief twists like a blade in his chest, but there's no time to mourn. The axe won't budge at first, fused by time to the petrified grip. He braces his boot against the wall and pulls harder, tendons straining until, with a grating screech, it breaks free. The moment the weapon lands in his palms, the ground trembles again. Not from falling rock, something heavier, something alive. A guttural roar shakes loose pebbles from the walls. Through the settling dust, massive claws tear at the collapsed tunnel entrance, widening gaps between boulders. Yellow eyes gleam in the dark. The goblins didn't just follow him, they brought a cave troll to finish the job. Thrain's fingers tighten around his father's axe. The metal thrums against his palms, as if remembering its last battle. Behind him, the gorge narrows into a steep climb, but there's no guarantee it leads anywhere. Ahead, the troll's snarls grow louder, its stench rolling in like a foul tide. He hesitates for only a heartbeat. His father chose to stand. Now, so will he. The axe feels lighter this time, not just a weapon, but a legacy. Let the troll come, let the goblins swarm. Gabilgathol's secrets won't be taken without a fight. Thrain doesn't hesitate. He lunges for the crevice, just as the troll's claws rake the air behind him, close enough to shred the fabric of his cloak. Stone groans as he forces himself into the cramped passage, shoulders scraping against rough rock. For a breathless moment, he's stuck, then with a final wrench, he tumbles free. The troll's enraged bellow echoes after him, but the creature is too massive to follow. Cool, stagnant air rises from below as Thrain catches his balance on the edge of a yawning abyss. The blue glow of phosphorescent veins fades here, leaving only an inky void stretching endlessly downward. But cutting across the darkness is a sight that roots him to the spot. A slender bridge of dwarven make, its arches carved with runes, so old even he struggles to decipher them. The stones are worn smooth by time, yet still perfectly aligned, no cracks, no erosion. This isn't just a path, it's a testament. His father's axe hums faintly in his grip, the metal warming as if sensing something ahead. The bridge beckons, its far end swallowed by shadows. Logic screams at him to turn back. No dwarf in living memory has ventured this deep, and no tales speak of what guards the other side. But the silence here is wrong, not empty, waiting. A distant rumble shakes loose pebbles from the ceiling. The troll hasn't given up. It's searching for another way in. Thrain grits his teeth and steps onto the bridge. The moment his boot touches the ancient stone, a low chime resonates through the chasm, like a hammer striking an unseen anvil. The sound lingers, vibrating in his bones. He freezes, half expecting the bridge to crumble beneath him, but it holds. Step by cautious step, he advances. The runes beneath his feet begin to pulse not with light, but with something deeper, a vibration that speaks straight to his blood. He knows this craft. This isn't just Dwarven work, it's Gabilgathol's work. The realization sends a chill down his spine. His ancestors didn't just build bridges, they built warnings. Midway across, the air grows thick with the scent of hot metal and old ashes. The darkness ahead stirs, not with movement, but with something far older, memory. Shadows coil like smoke, forming shapes too fleeting to grasp. Whispers brush against his ears, voices murmuring in Khazad-dûm so ancient, the words are nearly unrecognizable. Beware the keeper, beware the flame. Then the bridge ends, not at a wall or a door, but before a towering archway of blackened iron, its surface etched with a single, stark symbol, a hammer crossed with a key. The sigil of Gabilgathol's high smiths. Thrain's breath catches. Beyond that arch lies the truth about his father, about the war his people forgot, about why someone would send a warband to claim it. Behind him, the troll's roar echoes again, closer now. Ahead, the archway hums with a deep, metallic resonance, as if stirred by his presence. There's no more time to weigh risks. Only choices. Thrain tightens his grip on the axe and steps forward. The moment he crosses the threshold, the iron gate seals shut behind him with a final, thunderous clang. No going back now. The moment the slab tears loose beneath his boot, time slows. The stone vanishes into the abyss without a sound. No echo, no distant crash. Only silence. Thrain's muscles lock. This isn't erosion. The bridge was made to fail. A flicker of movement catches his eye. Torchlight dancing against the cavern walls far behind him. Not just goblins now. Dozens of pinpricks of fire swarm the tunnel mouths like angry embers. Goblin Scouts, signaling to the others. They've found another path, one that cuts off his retreat. The bridge groans under his weight, a deep, metallic creak, vibrating through the soles of his boots. One wrong step, and the ancient Dwarven mechanisms hidden beneath the stones will send him plunging after that dislodged slab. But staying still isn't an option. The torches advance. His father's axe seems to grow heavier in his grip, the runes along its blade catching the eerie blue glow of the phosphorescent veins. A memory surfaces, his father's voice, gruff but patient, teaching him to navigate the unstable minds of a rebel. Stone speaks, "Lad, listen." Thrain exhales sharply, then presses his palm flat against the nearest bridge support. The metal thrums faintly, not with decay, but with dormant power. This isn't just a trap, it's a test. Ahead, the remaining slabs tilt ever so slightly, their edges worn smooth by time, or by design. There's a pattern here, a sequence. The Dwarves of Gabilgathol didn't build this bridge to kill. They built it to choose. Only those who understood their craft would pass. The first torch crests the ridge behind him, close enough now that he hears the goblins' rasping laughter. No time left to hesitate. Thrain shifts his weight onto the balls of his feet and steps onto the next slab, not at the center, but off to the left, where the stone meets the arch. It holds another step, another careful shift in balance. The bridge shudders but doesn't break. Behind him, a chorus of shrieks erupts as the first goblin rushes onto the bridge behind him. Then, a deafening crack, the slab gives way, and the creature vanishes into the dark, its torch spiraling down like a dying star. The warband halts, uncertain. Thrain doesn't look back. He moves faster now, trusting instinct over thought, each footfall precise. The last few slabs are the narrowest, their edges crumbling. He leaps the final gap, rolling onto solid ground, just as another section of the bridge collapses in a roar of falling stone. Silence settles again, broken only by the distant, furious cries of the thwarted warband. But Thrain's attention is already fixed ahead. The archway looms larger now, its iron surface etched with fresh significance. They didn't just guard Gabilgathol. They filtered who could reach it, and he's passed. A new sound cuts through the quiet, a deep, resonant clang, like a hammer striking an anvil from somewhere far below. Then another, and another, rhythmic, purposeful. The forge isn't abandoned. Someone, or something, is still working down here. The moment Thrain's fingers close around the ledge, the last remnants of the bridge shatter into the abyss below. Dust swirls in ghostly tendrils as he hauls himself onto solid ground, heart hammering against his ribs. For a breathless instant, all is silent. No goblin shrieks, no troll roars, only the distant drip of water echoing through the cavern. Then his gaze lifts, and the sheer scale of what looms before him steals what little breath he has left. The gate isn't merely large, it's a masterpiece. Twin doors of blackened mithril stretch upward, their surfaces etched with concentric rings of glowing runes that pulse like a slow heartbeat. Each ring rotates independently, the symbols shifting with a soft metallic whisper. No hinges, no handles, just this labyrinth of ancient Dwarven script waiting to be deciphered. His father's axe trembles in his grip, not from fear, but recognition. These aren't random markings. The inner ring bears the crest of the High Smiths, a hammer cradled in flame. The middle displays the staggered peaks of Gabilgathol's skyline. The outer ring, a warning, stark and simple. A dwarf kneeling before an anvil, his beard severed at the chin. The old stories whisper of such punishments. Only Oathbreakers suffered that fate. A dull thud echoes through the stone behind him. The warband hasn't given up. They're finding another way. Thrain steps closer, tracing a callous finger along the outermost ring. The metal is ice cold despite the pulsing glow, humming with latent magic. His ancestors didn't just lock this gate, they judged who could enter. The first rune yields with a click as he twists it into place, a simple opener, child's work for any smith-trained dwarf. The second ring resists, its symbols sliding like oil until he aligns the mountain crest with the hammer. But the third ring doesn't budge. His palm sweats against the metal. What did the severed beard signify? Shame, failure, or something worse? A choice between honor and survival. Deep in the tunnels, steel clangs against stone. Closer now, too close. Thrain exhales sharply, then does the unthinkable. He reaches for his dagger and slices a thin line across his own palm. Blood wells, dark as the iron itself, and drips onto the lowest rune. The gate doesn't just unlock, it wakes. Gears groan like giants stirring from sleep. The rings snap into perfect alignment, their glow flaring white hot for one blinding instant before the doors part with a sigh of trapped air older than kingdoms. Beyond lies not darkness, but a radiance that steals his breath, the amber glow of forges left burning for centuries, their fires fed by no hand. The scent hits him first. Hot metal and coal, yes, but beneath it, something richer. Memory, legacy, home. Behind him, the first goblin spear clatters against the cavern floor. Ahead lies Gabilgathol's heart. Thrain steps across the threshold, and the gates seal at his back with a finality that echoes in his bones. No turning back, not now, not ever. Thrain's fingers tremble as he flips through the crumbling pages of his father's journal. Each sketch and glyph, a breadcrumb left behind in ink and blood. The runes on the gate mirror the diagrams exactly until they don't. The final symbol, the linchpin of the sequence, is gone, not faded, erased. His gut clenches. After everything, the tunnels, the troll, the bridge. Could it end here, inches from the truth? He slams his fist against the cold metal in frustration, the impact ringing through the cavern like a funeral bell. Pain flares up his arm, but something else answers a searing heat against his hip. The family crest on his father's axe bursts to life, embers glowing beneath the tarnished silver. Light races along the gate's grooves, following paths no chisel ever carved, as if the metal itself remembers the touch of Stonehelm blood. A sound like grinding teeth shakes the chamber as the doors inch apart. Air rushes out, not the dank chill of caves, but the dry, metallic breath of a tomb, sealed too long. The glow from within paints his face in hues of molten gold, and for the first time in centuries, living eyes behold Gabilgathol's heart. Mithril veins web the walls like frozen lightning, pulsing faintly as if the mountain's bones still hold a heartbeat. No soot stains the anvils lining the hall. No dust dulls the tools laid out with surgical precision, as though the smiths merely stepped away mid-stroke. But it's the silence that steals his breath, not the absence of sound, the weight of it, as if the very air is holding its breath, waiting to see what he'll do next. Then a whisper of movement, not from behind him, where the warband clambers closer, but ahead. A shadow stretches across the far wall, too tall for a dwarf, too fluid for stone. Thrain's hand flies to his axe, but the glow of his crest flickers not in warning. He realizes, in recognition, Gabilgathol wasn't just lost, it was waiting. And whatever guards its halls doesn't seem to consider him an enemy, yet. The throne room unfolds before Thrain like a scene, frozen in time. Great pillars of basalt rib the vaulted ceiling, their surfaces carved with scenes of dwarven glory, now cracked with age. At the chamber's heart, a skeletal figure slumps on a throne of black adamant, jeweled fingers clasped around a scroll, so brittle, it seems ready to crumble at a touch. The air hums with a presence thicker than dust, a pressure against the skin, like the moments before a storm breaks. Thrain's boots leave faint prints in the millennia of silt as he approaches. The king's skull tilts slightly, as if listening, though only cobwebs stir in the hollows of his eye sockets. With reverent care, Thrain eases the scroll free. The parchment crackles open, revealing spidery script in a dialect so ancient, the words blur before his eyes until the ink moves. Letters slither like living things, rearranging themselves into tongues he knows. Gabilgathol's final decree. A whisper slithers across the back of his neck, not sound, but memory given voice. Shadows peel from the walls, pooling into gaunt figures clad in tattered armor. Wraiths, their beards are spectral mist, their eyes empty pits, flickering with blue embers. They advance without footsteps, their whispers layering into a chorus of grief and fury. The language is Khazad-dûm, but twisted, as if spoken through lungs long withered. Then one specter steps forward, taller than the rest. The ghostly braids in its beard are tied in the Stonehelm fashion. The axe at its belt bears the same notch as Thrain has traced 1,000 times on his father's weapon. Recognition hits like a hammer blow. You should not have come. The wraith's voice grates like stone on stone, but beneath the decay, Thrain hears the timbre that once sang him lullabies by the forge. His father's spirit stretches a translucent hand toward the scroll. This was never meant for living eyes. The other wraiths hiss, their forms rippling like smoke in wind. Thrain's pulse races, but he doesn't retreat. The scroll trembles in his grip, its edges blackening as if scorched by invisible fire. What hell did his father die to keep buried, and why does part of him, some deep, primal instinct, resist reading it? The throne room darkens. The wraiths circle closer, their whispers rising to a keening wail. Thrain's fingers tighten around the parchment. To read it is to invite ruin. To refuse is to abandon every sacrifice made before him. Some choices weigh more than stone. The spectral figures tighten their circle, their whispers weaving into a single, hissing command. Complete the oath. Thrain's grip on the scroll tightens as his father's journal flashes in his mind. Those frantic, ink-smudged pages detailing a choice no dwarf should ever face. Blood or memory, freedom or legacy. His fingers brush the dagger at his belt. A single cut across his palm, spilled upon the throne, would awaken the smith's ancient pact binding his soul to Gabilgathol's fate, just as his father's had. The wraith's hollow eyes gleam with desperate hunger. They've waited centuries for someone strong enough to bear the weight, but there's another path. The journal spoke of a second ritual, the severing. One strike with his father's axe could shatter the crest on his cloak, breaking his bloodline's ties forever. The wraiths would fade, the secrets would stay buried, and he could walk away alive, unmarked, free. A cold draft snakes through the chamber as the throne's jewels flicker, reflecting scenes in their facets, flashes of a future where Gabilgathol rises again under his hand, forges blazing with forgotten arts. Another shows only silence, his axe lying discarded in the dust as he stumbles back toward sunlight, his past erased along with the curse. The wraith of his father drifts closer, translucent fingers hovering over the dagger's hilt. No words now, just a silent plea in those fading blue embers, not for mercy, but for understanding. This isn't just about power or survival. It's about what happens when the last living dwarf turns his back on history. Somewhere above, stone groans. The warband has breached the lower gates. Their distant screeches echo like knives on slate. Time stretches thin. Every breath tastes of metal and old ashes. Thrain looks down at the scroll again. The ink swirls, forming one final phrase not in runes, but in his father's handwriting. Some oaths are heavier than mountains, boy. But you don't have to carry them alone. The dagger glints as he draws it. The wraith still, and the throne room holds its breath. The blade bites deep. Thrain's blood splashes across the throne with a hiss, searing like liquid iron on an anvil. For a heartbeat silence, then the mountain itself shudders. Molten mithril erupts through the chamber walls, surging through veins of stone like resurrected lightning. The wraith's wails twist into something between agony and ecstasy as the glowing metal threads through their spectral forms, stitching them back into solidity, not as flesh, but as living armor. Their hollow eyes blaze blue as the throne's jewels explode with light, projecting visions directly into Thrain's skull. Gabilgathol in flames, dwarves not fleeing, but digging downward, sealing something beneath the forges with their own bodies as makeshift locks. A shadow moves in the deep, formless, ravenous, whispering promises in a language that melts stone. The visions shatter as the throne room lurches violently. Outside, iron gears the size of houses grind to life after centuries of stillness. Ballistae mounted along the cavern walls snap upright, raining spear-sized bolts into the advancing warband. Goblins shriek as the projectiles pin them to the stone like insects, their torches snuffed mid-fall. Thrain staggers, clutching his throbbing palm. The blood isn't clotting, it's burning, the wound glowing like a forge's heart. Across the chamber, his father's reforged wraith locks eyes with him, armored fingers curling around a ghostly axe. Not in threat, in gratitude. The message is clear. His blood didn't just wake the defenses. It reignited an ancient covenant. Every dwarf in this hall died to keep that nameless terror buried, and now the duty is his. Somewhere far below, the mountain groans. Not from collapsing tunnels, from something stirring. The throne's final gift sears into his mind, not a warning, but a weapon. The location of the last intact forge. If that thing rises, there's only one way to put it back in the dark, and it will cost more than blood. Beneath Thrain's feet, the mountain groans, not the familiar settling of stone, but the deep, guttural sound of something ancient and terrible uncoiling from its prison. The throne's visions scorch his mind again, shadows pooling like molten pitch, a monstrous form wreathed in fire and smoke, its wings scraping against the roots of the world. A Balrog, not just a creature of legend, Gabilgathol's curse, bound beneath the forges by the last of its kings. The ground trembles, dust cascades from the ceiling as cracks spiderweb across the chamber floor, glowing faintly with the same hungry brilliance as the mithril veins. His blood did more than awaken the city's defenses. It rang like a bell in the deep, calling the beast toward the surface. Across the room, his father's wraith grips his axe tighter, armored fingers twitching toward the jagged fissures. The message is clear, run, but the scroll still burns in Thrain's other hand, its edges blackening with every passing second. The truth is here. Why his people erased Gabilgathol from their histories, why the High Council feared this place. To leave now would mean abandoning answers that could rewrite Dwarven legacy. Then, metal shrieks. One of the reforged wraiths hurls itself at the crumbling wall, axe flashing, only to vanish in a burst of embers as a whip of living flame lashes up from the abyss. The stench of sulfur and scorched stone floods the chamber. Time fractures. Thrain's eyes dart to an archway behind the throne, still intact, leading upward toward the distant echo of wind. Safety, but etched into the keystone above it, nearly worn away, is a single rune, Kakov the Coward's Path. His jaw tightens. There's another way. The throne's final vision showed it, a lever hidden in the smith priest's anvil, the failsafe that would collapse the entire mountain atop the Balrog. A king's last resort. Stone explodes, a clawed hand wreathed in fire, tears through the far wall, scattering spectral warriors like ash. The Balrog's roar shakes dust from the ceiling, its voice less sound than pure, primal hunger. The wraiths rally, but their forms flicker. Without living dwarf blood to sustain them, they're fading fast. Thrain's boots scrape backward, his pulse a drumbeat in his throat. He could still make it to the arch, salvage the scroll, live to tell the tale, but the weight of his father's axe feels different now. Not just a weapon, but a key. The smith priest's anvil gleams in the flickering firelight, its surface etched with the same warning as the gate: sever the beard or bear the burden. Some choices don't leave room for second thoughts. The Balrog surges forward, and Thrain moves not toward escape, but deeper into the dark. The ground shudders beneath Thrain's boots as he sprints toward the forge's heart, a cavernous chamber where the air hums with the ghost of 1,000 hammers. Flames surge behind him, clawed shadows licking at the stone, as the Balrog's roar splits the silence like an axe through kindling. There, amid the ruins of anvils and shattered bellows, stands a single lever of blackened steel, its surface etched in elder runes worn smooth by time. The words glow faintly, whispering a promise and a curse, final purification. His fingers close around the lever just as a whip of fire cracks against the wall beside him, searing the stone to glass. Heat blisters the back of his neck, no time for doubt. He throws his full weight against the mechanism. For one terrifying second, nothing. Then, deep within the mountain's bones, pipes older than kingdoms grown awake. A sound like thunder rolls through the chamber as reservoirs burst, unleashing a torrent not of water, but liquid mithril, silver white and shimmering, hotter than dragon fire, yet cold enough to freeze a demon's soul. The molten flood crashes through channels carved for this very purpose, racing toward the forge with lethal precision. The Balrog hesitates. Its fiery eyes flicker with something unfamiliar, a dread. This was no accidental defense. Gabilgathol smiths didn't just hide from their enemy. They built a trap. Mithril meets flame with a hiss like a dying star. The creature's scream is a physical force, shredding the air as its form contorts, wings dissolving into smoke, claws crumbling like charred wood. But the liquid metal doesn't stop. It climbs, consuming, forging chains of its own will around the thrashing demon. The chamber trembles as the Balrog is dragged backward into the abyss, its bellows of rage fading into the deep. Silence settles heavy and unnatural. Thrain's breath comes ragged, his hands raw from the lever's bite. The scroll in his satchel survived the inferno, its edges singed but intact. For the first time since he crossed the threshold, the weight on his shoulders feels lighter. Not gone, never gone but shared. Above him, the mithril veins pulse once, twice, then dim. The last gift of a kingdom that refused to be forgotten. The Balrog's shriek splits the air as the molten mithril engulfs it, a primal howl that shakes the mountain to its roots. Flames sputter into acrid smoke where the celestial metal meets demon flesh, the creature's wings dissolving like parchment in a forge. But damnation has its own fury. With one last convulsion, The Balrog's whip lashes outward, shearing through stone pillars as if they were kindling. The ceiling buckles. Thrain doesn't wait to watch the beast's final moments. Chunks of basalt rain around him as he bolts for a buckling tunnel, his father's axe clutched tight. Behind him, Gabilgathol dies, a second death arches collapsing, runes exploding in showers of sparks. The mithril rivers freeze mid-flow, their glow fading like dying embers. Every instinct screams at him to run faster, but the path ahead crumbles faster than his boots can find purchase. Then, a glint of spectral blue. His father's wraith materializes in the maelstrom, armored hand, thrust toward a fracture in the wall, no wider than a dagger's blade. The apparition doesn't speak, doesn't need to. Thrain recognizes the glint of dwarven iron wedged in that crack. A pry bar left centuries ago, its handle worn smooth by desperate hands. He lunges. The moment his fingers close around the metal, the wraith dissipates into mist. Its final act not a farewell, but an apology. Stone groans as Thrain levers the hidden door open just enough to squeeze through, the scroll pressed flat against his chest. The tunnel beyond is tight, jagged, alive with the mountain's death throes. Somewhere above, daylight glimmers. Thrain doesn't look back, not when the Balrog's final roar shakes pebbles from the walls. Not when the pry bar snaps behind him, sealing the passage forever. There's only the climb now, each gasp of dusty air a gift, each handhold a silent plea to ancestors who paved this road with their bones. The last thing he hears before breaking surface isn't the mountain's collapse, but the whisper of unfurling parchment in his satchel, the scroll stirring as if eager to be read. Gabilgathol's truth survived, but at what cost? Dawn bleeds across the horizon as Thrain drags himself over the final ledge, his lungs burning with exertion. Behind him, the mountain exhales a final cloud of dust, sealing the ruins of Gabilgathol beneath a tomb of shattered stone. The silence is deafening. No triumphant fanfare, no lingering echoes of battle, just the creak of his armor and the strange, rhythmic pulse of his father's axe against his palm. The weapon thrums like a second heartbeat now, its blade veined with molten mithril that glows faintly even in daylight. The weight of the scroll in his satchel feels heavier than the rubble behind him. He knows what it contains, not just secrets, but choices. The High Council's fear wasn't baseless paranoia. They understood what slept beneath those halls. Yet as the rising sun paints the distant peaks in fire, Thrain wonders if their greatest mistake wasn't guarding the truth, but burying it too deep. Gabilgathol's final words etched into that parchment aren't just a lament. They are a blueprint. A gust of wind catches his cloak, revealing the sigil stitched into the lining, the twin hammers of his house, now singed at the edges. The irony isn't lost on him. He came seeking answers about his father's disappearance and unearthed a war older than written history. The axe hums again, warmer this time, as if resonating with his thoughts. It's more than a weapon now. It's a key, a compass, a covenant with the past. Somewhere beyond these slopes, Erebber's torches still burn, its lords none the wiser about what nearly stirred beneath their feet. Thrain flexes his stiff fingers. He could return, present the scroll, let the scholars and smiths dissect its warnings, or he could vanish into the wilds, letting the world believe Gabilgathol's fate was myth. But as the mithril in his axe flickers, casting long shadows across the rocks, a third path takes shape, one that would make both his ancestors and the council recoil. The Lost Kingdom's legacy isn't just a grave, it's a forge, and if the Balrog could be bound by dwarven hands once, who's to say it couldn't be done again, differently? High above, an eagle cries, its shadow skimming the cliffside like an omen. Thrain adjusts his grip on the axe and turns east, toward the sunrise, toward the unbroken peaks where no dwarven road has ever reached. The first step is always the hardest, but then again, so is the last. The hallowed chamber of the High Council feels smaller now, its towering pillars and gilded arches pressing in like silent judges. Thrain's boots echo against the obsidian floor as he approaches the semicircle of ancient thrones, each occupied by a lord whose beard is longer than the last. The air smells of polished stone and old parchment, but beneath it lingers something sharper, mistrust. He doesn't kneel. Instead, he lays his father's axe across the council's central anvil, the mithril veins in its blade catching the torchlight with an eerie pulse. Beside it, he places a single page from the journal carefully chosen. Its edge is frayed, but the ink still stark. The illustration shows Gabilgathol's forges at their height, dwarven smiths, crafting wonders lost to time. No mention of flame or shadow, no whispers of what slept beneath. The eldest counselor, white-bearded and sharp-eyed as a hawk, leans forward. "You risked much to bring us this," he rumbles, fingers tracing the page. "Yet you speak nothing of how your father died." Thrain's jaw tightens. He could tell them of the wraiths, the bridge, the way liquid mithril sang as it drowned a devil. But some truths are too heavy for halls like these. "He fell defending our legacy," he says simply. "Isn't that enough?" A murmur ripples through the council. Some nod, their eyes alight with visions of reclaimed glory. Others scowl, fists clenched around scepters that haven't known battle in centuries. The debate swirls arguments about honor, history, the dangers of digging too deep. But Thrain's attention drifts to the shadowed alcove behind the thrones. There, half hidden behind a tapestry of Durin's coronation, a shelf groans under the weight of sealed scrolls. Each bears the sigil of a lost kingdom, Tumen-Zahar, Belagast, realms even older than Gabilgathol. The High Archivist catches his gaze and stiffens, as if sensing the direction of his thoughts. Thrain almost smiles. They know, not the specifics, perhaps, but the shape of it, the rot, festering beneath their proudest legends. A hand claps his shoulder, startling him. It's Borin, the youngest counselor, his beard barely past his belt. "You've given us much to ponder, Stonehelm," he says too loudly. Then, softer, "The archives are open to you, if you're fool enough to keep digging." The axe hums against the anvil, a vibration Thrain feels in his bones. Beyond these walls, the mountain wind howls like a thing alive. He doesn't need the scrolls to tell him what comes next. Some paths aren't marked on maps. They're written in blood, in silence, in the quiet spaces between words. And he's just learned how to read them.